Okay, awesome. We are live.
Okay, should I start?
Cool. Okay, so hey guys, we have our first speaker, Sunil Aggarwal sir. So to give an introduction about Sunil sir, he is the dean at blockchain programs at Talent Sprint. So that was one of the first blockchain programs in India, blockchain courses in India, right? And he's also the author of Bitcoin Magnet, and he has a lot of interesting ideas. You'll be fascinated by it. I really hope you guys enjoy the session. So one of the great ideas he has is Indian Data Dollar, which is a blockchain based UBI system to to come about from the COVID crisis, right? So he'll be explaining more about it. So Sunil sir, you can take it away from here.
Thank you, Shrikar. Hello, friends. Today I'm going to present something pretty interesting, which is going to be one of the state or national level blockchain implementation in the field of uh, India's monetary system. And if I paraphrase it in a simple manner, I'm proposing a new currency which is called Indian Data Dollar. But this currency, Indian Data Dollar, will not be a replacement of existing currency, but it will be a complementary currency. So that's why I'm saying that let's create a dual legal tender system, because we are living in very, very interesting times. And to be honest, these interesting times are far more dangerous in terms of not only mortality of human beings, but also mortality of our economic and financial systems. So please look it into that context and look at the monetary and financial impact of this pandemic over a period of few months and few years. So within that context, my fundamental submission here is that lack of imagination in bad times is the biggest crisis. And we should always continue to ask ourselves that, are we in a position where we don't have any option, or are we in a position where we can have one option after another, and like this we should have a continuous window opening towards us. So Indian Data Dollar is a project in that sense. And these are the contents of this entire session. I will not present the last four, five slides. I will just stop it when the lectures start. But broadly, I'm going to explain first order, second order, and third order effects of coronavirus and their responses, and how in these kind of times Indian Data Dollar makes huge sense, and what will be the model of Indian Data Dollar, and like this. So, see, friends, the most important thing that is actually overwhelming our attention right now is that we are continuously watching the figures, like what is the global infections today. There are 45 lakh infected people all across the world, and India is going to touch 100,000, 1 lakh people infected with coronavirus in couple of days. These are the facts which I would call first order effects, and these effects have a certain kind of identification marks around that. For example, infection, mortality rates, rising inability against the exponential R naught, which is the uh, main figure which tells that whether we are moving towards flattening of the infection curve or accelerating of curve. And in this particular scene, we have seen that recently more and more people, even if in some countries we are able to suppress the infection in first wave, second wave the infection is coming up again. So in that sense, more and more governments are feeling a certain kind of inability against the rising R naught. And of course, because of that, the mitigation and suppression strategy is not working 100%. And because of that, our healthcare infrastructure is feeling non-resourceful. But don't forget that these are all first order effects of coronavirus. And what is the reaction to these this first order effects? we are increasing our testing capabilities. For example, in India, we have just now tested more than 2 million people. But if you compare it with USA, where they have tested more than 10 million people, most of the countries are increasing quarantine facilities, hospital beds, ventilators, masks, and they're also partnering with corporates, civil society, army, and all those things. But if you ask a one single question, what is the focus of all the responses to the first order effects? And that focus is minimize the mortality rate. Now, this is a genuine strategy, a genuine way forward. But the point here is that we are here talking only and only of the first order effects. Now, the issue here is that this coronavirus is also having second order effects, which are far more dangerous. For example, we have universal shutdown, complete disruption of global supply chains. Unemployment has literally spiked up. For example, in India, it is estimated that in last 8 weeks, roughly 120 million people have got unemployed. 120 million people. And liquidity crisis has become such a big crisis that it is about to move into insolvency and bankruptcy crisis. And don't forget that uh, liquidity crisis is when uh, institutions don't have money to circulate. But insolvency crisis is one when people and companies don't have money to pay back their debts. So, in that sense, insolvency crisis is a far more dangerous than liquidity crisis. But we are fast moving into bankruptcy and insolvency crisis. And of course, at an individual level, we have seen a sudden collapse of purchasing power, which means we are going to see deflation in a big way. And of course, in these kinds of times, everybody is expecting from government, but in certain circumstances, government alone cannot handle such a huge chunk of responsibilities. But these are the second order effects. And what are the major reactions? Now, government has tried to do ensure that food and medicine is being delivered to people, and including home delivery. They have managed somehow to maintain all those delivery services. Essential services are also being managed, like banking, like electricity, like communication. And on that front, I would say that things are not that in bad shape. And of course, raising public awareness. Almost every media organization is focusing on raising public awareness and then ensuring law and public order. Of course, earlier it was 21-day shutdown, but now it has moved into uh, from 21 day to 40 day, and 40 day to now around 58-day shutdown, and this is only going to increase. So in that sense, government is only reacting to these second order effects. And what is the result is they are trying to minimize the damage due to hunger and disorder. Now, if you remember, what was the reaction to the first order effects? Minimize the mortality. And here the result is minimize the damage due to hunger and disorder. Okay. Now, look at the third order effects of this pandemic. See, you have already seen a collapse of tax and non-tax revenues for almost all the government. Stock market is already down roughly 35%. And we also looking at another round of stock market crash. Corporate bonds have entered high yield, which means corporates will find it very difficult to get money from the market. And there is a serious possibility that if taxes don't rise, government might have to impose financial emergency. And if that kind of a thing happen, they can also impose certain kind of cash withdrawal restrictions, as it happened in the case of Yes Bank. So, uh, if we just leave top 10, 20 countries, there are more than 150 countries which don't have very strong economy or strong monetary system. So they have raised money from the world, so their sovereign bonds will face a very serious payment crisis, which means if they default on their payment schedule, their economies are going to see a lots and lots of currency crisis, and India is not immune from that crisis. And commodity markets are already very, very volatile. Recently, you must have seen oil went even into a negative price territory. And in this kind of a thing, potential of currency wars is very, very huge, because at present, China and USA are not on very good terms. So already people are saying that at present imperialism is hurting the global economy. So we need to move out of petrodollar. So in that kind of a scene, if China makes some critical move, we can see a potential of currency war. And of course, because of this, we have seen Western and Eastern markets are decoupling from each other. Russia and China are moving into one zone, and America into another zone. And what are the standard reactions to these third order effects? At present, most of central banks are into some sort of a quantitative easing phase. Recently, Indian Prime Minister and then Finance Minister announced a package of 20 trillion rupees. The fact is that that is not a package, that is basically extension of credit or extension of loans to all the six sectors or six segments of the economy. But the issue here is that here the lending power of central banks is getting too much stressed, and that's a point of concern. And in that kind of a circumstances, some banks are thinking of launching their own central bank digital currencies, like China is going to launch its CBDC called digital yuan. And of course, the way we are saying Atmanirbhar, so everybody is now turning into a protectionist kind of a zone, which means that the globalization infrastructure that we have created over last 20 to 30 years is going to suffer a huge setback. And in this kind of a system, currency can be very, very unstable. And if don't forget that forex market is the largest ever market in the system right now. We trade roughly $5 trillion worth of forex transactions every day. So this is a huge, it's literally double the Indian GDP. And uh, already all forms of global prices are showing a very, very high volatility index. And result is that if these things are not stopped, then we are going to see a monetary, economic, and social tsunami. Imagine what happens if some country's currency goes down by 50%. It means its imports will go very, very costly, or something different happens. For example, if oil doesn't go up in prices and its demand goes down, all the oil producing countries are going to see a huge economic shock. So all these things are basically a reaction to third order effects, and nobody knows how to handle the third order effects. And that's where I'm saying that in order to safeguard from these third order effects, we will have to build some sort of new forms of monetary anchors. And those monetary anchors should be built with the help of blockchain, and they should be completely transparent. And here I'm proposing that let's do a similar kind of anchor based upon public utility in India. But before that, I'm just going to ask, are we really prepared for tsunami of third order effects? The reason here is that since first order effects of this crisis are so huge, at present only a few people can see, relate, and control these effects. And second thing is that very few people understand that we live in a world of consensus, and that consensus is called lender of the last resort, which means there is one authority in a particular jurisdiction which can print money and distribute money. But this might be a privilege for a countries like America and China, but this is not a privilege for most of countries, because if they keep on printing their money, they will only devalue their currency. But the fact is that more than 193 countries are based upon have based their monetary models on this particular consensus, and this consensus is the real tectonic plate of global monetary stack. And we are stretching this consensus too far. And if there happens a certain kind of tectonic shift at a national or at a global currency crisis level, then things cannot be stopped. So the issue here is that how central banks and governments can actually go beyond this consensus and can manage the things. And the problem here is that they are currently caught inside a loop, and that loop is on one side, treasury will be collecting taxes from the people, both direct and indirect taxes, and RBI will be printing money, which will be money as credit. So in this loop fashion, the every country's monetary system is running. But the issue here is, if tax collapses, monetary worth will also collapse. For example, if uh, tax collapses by 50%, will a currency of that country collapse by 50% also? No, it might collapse by 100%. So things can go in any kind of a direction. So that's why I'm saying we are unprepared for tsunami of third order effects. So the solution here is that let's shift from this tax credit loop to a public utility driven shared ledger network. And I'm saying let's tokenize the telecom sector, which means total telecom sector. And what is the primary logic? The logic here is that if 20th century monetary system can be based upon new oil, then why 21st century cannot be based on data, which is the new oil? For example, in last 8 weeks, most of the world may have stopped, but as far as our communication, our entertainment, our information is concerned, we have seen a continuity in that. Why? Because we have been consuming data. And in my own home, I'm consuming more than 500 GB of data per month. So the issue here is that data is far more central to my life than even oil. So why I should not recreate 21st century currency based upon data? And here the another fact is that network equity is far greater than monetary equity, because when we uh, uh, use data, we are basically participating in some sort of a network activity, and network equity is far greater than monetary equity, because it has both tangible and intangible impacts. For example, when I use a particular social network like Twitter or Facebook, I am also getting the benefit of network equity. And the final point is that we need to move from a single point failure to a decentralized peer-to-peer and anti-fragile mechanism. So that's why I'm saying let's tokenize the telecom sector. And why we need to tokenize the telecom sector? Because we are the second largest base of data users after China, and this base is only increasing. And in terms of cost, we are the cheapest data country, and young population we have. Average age is around 27 to 28, and it is expected that in next 3 to 4 years we will be having 1 billion active data users. So which means that if we consider a person who is 12 plus, then data consumption is going to become a mandatory and universal need of every individual in India, not just in India, across the world, but here we are focusing on India. So if data is the new oil, let us dollarize the data. And here is the mechanism design. This comprises three parts. First is universal basic income. Second is zero debt telecom sector becoming BEX, where I'm proposing that let's transform telecom sector companies into crypto banks based upon Indian data dollar. And on the third level, I'm proposing a alternative, a parallel taxation model, which is based upon a new kind of transaction tax. And that transaction tax can vary between 1 to 3%. So please remember that when I'm saying Indian data dollar, these three parts are the essential parts. If you remove one part from the rest of two, this will not work. So this is the mechanism design. And what is the token economics of this entire model? I'm assuming that in over next 10 years, India will have a median base of 1 billion data users. And let's assume a user consumption of 1 gigabyte per user per day, which means monthly consumption of 30 gigabytes and annual consumption of 365 gigabytes. And over 10 years, one user will be consuming 3,650 gigabyte per user. So I'm saying let's tokenize next 10 years of potential data consumption, which comes down to uh, 3.65 trillion gigabytes for 1 billion users. And I'm saying let's anchor the price of 1 gigabyte to rupees 10. So the way, if you remember, 20 years back, China fixed its yuan to US dollar when they fixed it to around 1 is to 8. So I'm using similar kind of peg mechanism, but within India, let's peg Indian data dollar equivalent to 10 rupees. And uh, if we can do this, then it means that virtually we are creating 36.5 trillion rupees of new money over next 10 years. And don't forget that at present in the system, we have 26 trillion rupees of cash with the public. And I'm saying that over next 10 years, divide this money into three segments. One is UBI fund, Universal Basic Income Fund, Telecom Fund, which will go to telecom sector companies, and Reserve Fund, which will be released over next 10 years. Now, what is the logic of this universal basic income? Since GST is 18% and annualized gross revenue of telecom sector is 8%, which means this 26% is the amount of money which telecom companies are going to give to the government. So it means it is a public money. So let's assume that if this is a public money, then why can't we give it as an advance income to the public itself? So let's transform this 26% tax into universal basic income fund and give it to the public. And just and how that will be done? If you see, out of 3.65 trillion tokens, this 26% will come down to 949 billion tokens. It means that we are going to distribute 9.49 trillion rupees worth of UBI to these people, which means if we divide it in 10 equal installments, which means every month we will be giving 949 rupees per individual, which means for a family of 4 or 5, it comes down to around 4,000 to 5,000 per month. So in that sense, we are going to give 9.49 trillion of new money supply to the public in next 10 months. Don't forget, at present, the biggest problem in Indian economy is that an individual doesn't have purchasing power because his or her income has gone to zero. So in that sense, universal basic income is the core requirement of Indian masses, because if they don't spend, producers will not be able to produce and sell. And uh, in that sense, RBI will not be pressured to do money printing, and particularly that kind of money printing which is not backed by sustainable tax revenue. And I'm saying that the other 40% of token supply, let's distribute it to telecom company shareholders and debtors. See, at present, Indian telecom sector is full of debt. I'm saying all those people who have given debt to telecom companies, their debt should be replaced with tokens. And I'm also saying that all the equity holders of telecom companies should also convert their uh, equity into a token. Of course, I'm also giving a formula of how that transfer would happen. Broadly, I'm considering four players: Airtel, Jio, Vodafone Idea, and BSNL MTNL. So I'm saying data share, market share, and user share. These are the three criterions, and give equal weights to these three and devise a formula for token transfer, and 40% tokens out of this 3.65 trillion tokens will be given to Airtel, Jio, Vodafone Idea, and BSNL MTNL based upon that particular formula. So, uh, sim- so in that sense, all the equity and all the debt of telecom sector would be converted into this new token that is called Indian Data Dollar. And in this way, the basic target is let's make all the telecom sector into a zero debt sector. Now, why we are doing this? Now, the moment you are able to transform this into zero debt sector, license these telecom companies as Indian data dollar banks, which means some sort of a equivalent of Facebook Libra. So instead of one having one Libra kind of a system, let's have four Libra kind of systems in the country, but they will be regulated by Indian laws. And they can be made instantly payable at telecom billing portals, Reliance stores, petrol pump, Airtel's EasyDay stores, and more places can be authorized to collect IDD payments. And we also need to upgrade our money laws by inducting Indian data dollar as the second legal tender, which means that 26% for UBI, 40% for telecom sector, that makes 66%. And the rest of 34% tokens will be given in 100 tranches across 120 months, leaving first 20 months since launch. So in that sense, we will not flood the market after a certain period, and the money insertion will happen in a slow manner. And as far as the custodians of this fund are concerned, Telecom Regulatory Authority and National Payment Corporation of India should become the co-custodians of this fund. And in that fund, from that fund, users can buy these tokens from the TRI and NPCI, where we can say that nobody can get more than 5,000 tokens per person. And this is about the 34% share, but this will happen after first 20 months of the project launch. And once this token framework is ready, let's formalize this token framework into constitution as a basic structure of money. Now, what is happening here? What I'm saying here is that let's shift from a politics based lender of last resort consensus to a anchor based shared consensus, and that consensus would be around a public utility called data. And here we are going to be backed by 1 billion active data users of India. Now, if given a choice, whom you would trust more, Indian central government or 1 billion data users? Of course, the answer would be 1 billion data users. So that's why I'm saying let's move from a single point failure to a anti-fragile system based upon public utility based ledger network. And let's also shift in a certain way that from a black box model of money issuance to a transparent money issuance and distribution function. And building a token based payment mechanisms with blockchain will become the standard in Indian monetary system and payment system. And we are shifting from if we pay in Indian data dollar, then we will be completely safeguarded from any kind of direct and indirect tax, because we are going to pay taxes in a new model, and that will be transaction tax. And that transaction tax is something that we can agree, but it should be within a range of 1 to 3%, which means if we are making transactions in IDD, Indian data dollar, then no direct or indirect tax would be applicable on us. And of course, if we want to allow easy convertibility of fiat currency to IDD tokens, then we need at least a few dozen cryptocurrency exchanges to ensure easy convertibility. And as far as the regular banking systems and wallets and all those things are concerned, they will keep on working as normal. This new system will not be uh, disrupting the pre-existing systems, because people will take some time to get acclimatized. So we are first issuing this universal basic income as a way of ensuring that people have some form of purchasing power with them, and slowly and steadily over months and years, this system will become mainstream. So in that sense, people who are acclimatized with the earlier system, they can keep on working with that system, but people who are in need, they can shift on to the new system. Now, of course, how to implement will be a big question, and I'm proposing that let's build it on a permission ledger. And I don't know which would be the ideal one, but I think multi-chain is a very simple blockchain framework, tried and tested. We can use it as early as possible, because with multi-chain, it is we can launch this network in a very short period time. And at present, this network proposes gives us a throughput of around 1,000 transactions per second. And I personally feel that if we use multi-chain, then in terms of scalability, we will not face any problem, at least for next 5 years. So in that sense, I do feel that millennials will be able to sign on early, but as time passes, everybody who gets uh, his or her share of these 26% tokens will realize that this is a new system, and in this new system, uh, they will get a new kind of purchasing power with a much simpler taxation model, which means that if you are in this particular system, you don't need to bother about income tax, you don't need to bother about any kind of GST, any kind of indirect tax. You just have to pay only one kind of tax, and that would be transaction tax. So I'm basically proposing that let's build a parallel system instead of overburdening our existing system. Okay, and I'm saying that let's uh, focus on all those people who are above 14 years. So once we reach nearly uh, 800 million or 900 million people who are above 14 years, then we can move to lower age groups, so as to reach 1 billion number. So in this way, we can implement this particular permissioned blockchain framework. Of course, we have to do some necessary steps, and first is we will have to upgrade our legal tender laws. We'll have to make a regulatory body, separate regulatory body, and we'll have to make a new kind of basic structure of Indian constitution by assimilating it, this particular framework, into consolidated fund of India. So basically, transaction tax laws would have to be integrated into regular taxation framework, and IDD to fiat exchanges would have to be built. So these are the things that would have to be done. And in terms of ensuring that no person should get universal basic income twice, so there should be a whitelisting process, so that uh, people can actually get money with unique identities. And of course, privacy should be safeguarded as far as that process is concerned. So I hope about privacy, my next speaker would be focusing on much. So in the initial period, if people are facing some sort of a discomfort with public and private key pair kind of a handling, so in that interim phase, exchanges can work as custodian, the way Unocoin, WazirX, and Zeppe are doing right now. So basically, I'm saying that COVID 19 is a black swan event, and radical monetary imagination alone can stop third order effects of this global pandemic. I'm stopping here before I would suggest that over to you for questions.
Hey Sunil, so that was an amazing session. I really enjoyed it. So I have one doubt, which is that will it be an additional tax or will it be an already existing tax, which is just switched into a different version? Is it
No, 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 no. I'm saying that this is a new system where there is no direct tax, no indirect tax. If you are making a transaction in IDD, the only tax that you would be paying will be a transaction tax, which can be 1%, 2%, or 3%. That's all.
okay? Okay, got it. So we have questions coming in. So the first question is from Darshan. Could you explain how 10 rupees is equal to 1 GB?
See, Darshan, the issue here is that I'm proposing the anchor. See, at present, if you buy 500 GB data from Airtel, then you will pay a different price than if you buy 5 GB data from Airtel. So I'm saying that let's standardize the price for next 10 years. Let it be 10 rupees to a dollar, 10 rupees to Indian data dollar, which means this price should be fixed for that particular period. And don't forget, India is the cheapest data country. If you go to Switzerland, the cost per GB is around $20. So I'm saying that 10 rupees for 1 GB is a fair price which can be fixed for Indian users.
Okay, so Darshan also had another doubt, which is so if you are fixing the prices or planning it, wouldn't it be kind of nationalizing the industry? And when you do that, it might the quality might decrease or it might have other effects, right? Because the competition is not the same anymore. So what do you think about that?
See, that's why don't forget that I'm also saying that the moment we implement this thing, all the telecom companies will also be upgraded with banking licenses. So if they are losing anything in terms of profit from their data business, then they will be gaining a lot from their banking business. So don't forget, getting a banking license in India is a very, very difficult territory. And by participating in this kind of you may say that nationalization of telecom sector, by participating in this new kind of activity, you would be gaining a banking license without paying any extra cost.
Okay, so price fixing of data hurts the innovation significantly. You are killing the chance of a majority of Indians coming online. So that's a question from Darshan as well.
Darshan, the issue here is you are ignoring one fact, that let's assume you are the user and I'm giving you roughly 10,000 rupees as an advance payment for your data consumption, which means a huge incentive for you. The point here is that if I'm paying you 10 months of advanced data consumption, then I'm uh, helping you or I'm killing the sector. I'm basically enabling at least all those people who are yet not data users. I'm basically inviting them to become data users, because once they come onto a telecom sector, only then they will get the benefit of UBI. Don't forget that this is possible only if they become a data users. So in that sense, I'm ensuring that there will be active 1 billion data users. How I am killing that sector?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the next question is from Kalpesh. If every person gets IDD and IDD is backed by GB, isn't that limiting data allowance per person? Also, companies can also expand the number of GB in circulation by expanding their bandwidth capacity. So where will the value of IDD come from?
See, let's be very clear about this. I'm saying that let's do it on a blockchain and make all the analytics of that blockchain public. which means that you know how many Indian data dollar tokens are in use right now. And I'm also saying that this should become a basic structure of Indian constitution. We cannot create more than 36.5 trillion worth of gigabytes in next 10 years. So if we reach beyond that kind of a stage, and it will be immediately obvious. And if it becomes a fact that tomorrow our consumption crosses 36.5 GB, sorry, 3.665 trillion GB, then we can also introduce certain laws where we can add additional issuance. But the thing is, my mathematics says that this is a sufficient figure for next 10 years. And if any telecom player is selling more data, it has to have a payment. I'm saying all that telecom sector payment, billing, all those should shift onto blockchain. All those shift to IDT. There will not be any parallel channel. So
Okay.
if you are a geo and you are selling data to somebody, then that data, let's assume you sell 50 GB data, then that 50 GB data means 50 IDD tokens. 50 IDD tokens means 500 rupees. Of course, in this kind of a model, rich people who consume more data will pay more money, no doubt about that. So in that sense, I'm cross subsidizing. But if you are consuming more data, then you should be able to pay more money.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much answers the next question. But anyway, Ananta is asking how many tokens will be issued, and is there a cap, and how to model the future demand for the data?
See, if you see 3.65 trillion tokens, 26% universal basic income, 40% will go to telecom sector, and 34% will be released over next 10 years. So this is a broad model, and there can be minor changes, but those minor changes can be finalized when some sort of a proof of concept is tested. And this is something, all those minor variations can be finalized, but broadly, as far as the structure is concerned, I think more or less it will remain as it is.
Okay, awesome. So, unfortunately, we're running out of time. If anyone has additional questions, you can just reach out to Sunil sir. So, where's the best place to reach out to you?
See, you can type here. I can keep on answering here. Otherwise, you can
Sure,
answer me at my email, agarsunil at the rate gmail.com. AGARSUNIL at the rate gmail.com. I will type it down.
sure. I think you can even answer it in the chat as well as if anyone has questions, they can just mail it to his email. Okay, awesome. So, thank you so much, Sunil sir. That was a fantastic session. I really enjoyed it. So, so guys, we'll be back in like 2 3 minutes with the next speaker. So, see you guys.